All right, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk Michigan Edition. Jeff here. Dan, how are you?
Doing all right. My voice is still hoarse, getting over a cold, so I apologize to the listeners if I clear my throat, cough, or just I don't know, have a scratchy throat in general.
So, this past Friday night, I went out and I went to a Tigers game, and I happened to see you there. Oh, that's right, because we went together. So let's talk a little bit about Friday night. I think we had a great time. Me, you, our buddy Bear, from the Monday Morning Tears Fantasy Football group, and we went and kind of paid our last homage to Miguel Cabrera, the great Miggy. I thought we had a pretty kick-ass time talking about Friday night.
Yeah, it was a great time. Weather was perfect. Got my son a new bling chain to go with the Michigan one he's already got. Got a nice.
Yeah, I finish your story, but I'm gonna need some report back on the chain.
I got a nice little jacket, whatever, that apparently was on sale. Didn't realize it, so I'll save money on that. And we drank to our heart's content. Stopped at a couple bars on the way out of Detroit. Got some grub, and it was a good time. Tigers lost, but Miggy had a good day statistically by himself. And it's been a while since I've seen Comerica Park that full of people. So it was nice to see.
Yeah, I was gonna, my last 4 games that I've been to in Detroit was this one, obviously.
Yeah.
So Friday night, and then there's only 2 other games you could see Miguel was Saturday and Sunday after ours. So Friday night I went. The last game I went to was back in, I believe, August with Shohei Ohtani in town. He was on the mound for the game. There was a game that I went to with Brad that was facing the Pirates, and that was a dead night. But then the other one was when Miguel had hit 499 on the road, and it was the first game in the home stretch.
Yeah.
It was the first game at home where he could hit 500. 3 of the 4 games that I've went to in my last 4 games have been like playoff atmospheres, like just so many people there. And it kind of brought me back to the, the old days where Verlander and Scherzer and Fielder or Kinsler, Victor Martinez, JD Martinez, Miguel and all those guys. And it's like, this used to be a really good team and they used to pack the house, and, they haven't lately, but everybody was there Friday night to see Miguel go out, and it was really cool. We had a great time, like you said. The beer was cold. It was a beautiful night, and yeah, had a really good time. The very next day, though, Michigan plays Nebraska in the Bussin Bowl, and Michigan absolutely throttles Nebraska 45-7. At one point, they're leading 45-0. This was just like the game that kind of everybody assumed Michigan would have already had. And they had basically played everybody to a 30 to single digits kind of game all year long. And then finally, their first road game of the year, they just obliterate Nebraska. Talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah, so another nice stat line from number 9. 12 of 16, 156, 2 tutties. Corum, 16 for 74 and a touchdown. Edwards, he went 14 for 48. So on the stat line there, it doesn't jump out, as a wow factor there, but he did look to run with a little bit more power in this game. It looked like he wasn't going down on first contact like the previous ones. Khalil Mullings looked good. He went 5 for 43, had a 20-yard touchdown run. They had numerous people carry the ball, even 4 different quarterbacks. Roman Wilson went 458 for 2 touchdowns, had a David Tyree type catch, and he's already got 8 touchdowns on the year. Why he's not in somewhat of a Heisman discussion right now is beyond me. I mean, he's got better stats right now than Marvin Harrison Jr. Josiah Stewart was co-Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week, had 5 tackles, 2 sacks, and this is the second game of the year. I think the last one was the Bowling Green game with Chris Jenkins, but Kenneth Grant this game, he got a pick, I don't say pick 6, but he got an interception after a deflected ball. Didn't get a sack or tackle, but he came down with it, so that was great to see. And so this was probably Michigan's most complete game all around. Kirk Herbstreit made a comment on that, but Kirk Herbstreit has Michigan in his rankings at 5th because of him not being as impressed with them as kind of we are. But it's what it is, man. And nothing else you can really ask to come out of this game. But good, solid team win all around.
Yeah, I thought Michigan has kind of already been doing what they did on Saturday. I guess it depends on who you ask on if Michigan's looked impressive or not. If you're looking for Michigan to cover the spread and they haven't these last couple games, I could see why you've maybe been disappointed in their performance. Hey, I'm recording a pod here. If there's a game where, they did cover the spread, maybe you thought they looked good when it's like in reality they played the exact same game. You listen to Joel Klatt's pod at all?
No, but I seen that he made a comment about a metaphor with a boa constrictor or something like that.
So that's actually exactly where I'm going to go with this. So Joe Klatt, I listen to his pod. He now does them twice a week. Huge fan. I also listen to when he's on the Herd on Wednesday afternoons. The one thing he said about Michigan, because he hasn't been wowed by Michigan this year, but he said something that was pretty accurate and it kind of explained why he hasn't been necessarily wowed. He's like, Michigan's just a boa constrictor. They're going to wrap their arms around you and strangle you until you eventually give up and die. Like, it's just like, it's the exact same thing. Michigan gets ahead. They turn it into their game. They play it their way. And when the clock strikes 0, you got beat. And that's kind of been the MO of this Michigan team now since 2021. I mean, nothing's changed. This game, I think you could argue we're seeing more and more passing attack for this team, but at the same time, they ran the ball like 51 times compared to 23 pass attempts. It's still very much a run dominated team, and it just seems like it doesn't matter who you play unless somebody jumps out on Michigan. It's going to be really hard to beat them. You're going to have to jump out to a 2-touchdown lead, kind of like TCU did, kind of like Georgia did. If you're not able to do that, it's like a bowling ball heading downwind. It's going to pick too much steam up and it's going to be too tough to tame. So you listen to this pod here or there, you kind of know we always do like a liked, disliked, more of. We're going to kind of change how we present that. I'm going to start. This is how we win from now on, right? What we happen to this game and how we win. So the 3-headed monster, JJ, Blake, Roman. At this point, it's pretty obvious this is how we win football games. If JJ plays well and Blake plays well and Roman plays well, it seems like we're unbeatable. These are the guys that continuously have been scoring for us. These are the guys that have continuously been getting in the end zone. That's how we win. What do you have?
No penalties, dominated the time of possession to convert on 3rd down. In this specific case, was 8 of 13. So the worst game that Michigan looked like all year round was Bowling Green because they turned over the ball. Bowling Green had it for way more time than Michigan did. In this game, clean across the board, like I said, on penalties. They own the time of possession. And like you said, this team is in the first half, they're a passing attack. They're more balanced in a sense. But then when that second half comes around, that's when they're going to just lean on it. And, the reason why they ran so damn much is because when they got the backups in, which they pulled mid-3rd quarter, Leon Franklin's coming in there to run the ball. Javier Dunlap's coming in to run the ball. That's all they're doing. They had, Jane Denegal and Payne O'Leary had, they connected on the 30-yard touchdown pass or something like that. And that was both their career first. And so, like, outside of that pass play, they're just going to swap, platoon swap the guys and put, change it up in the second. But those are my 3, I guess.
How we lose. And it's hard to kind of pick out the things that would make us lose in a 45-7 win. But I'm kind of beating the same drum. It just feels like we can't get Donovan Edwards going. There's something there. I'm not sure what it is. but 14 carries for, I don't have it in front of me, like 45 yards, 44 yards, 40 something yards. It's just not enough. You're not getting that breakaway speed. And is that because he's not getting the same amount of touches as Blake? Well, he damn near did this game. I don't know. It's a weird little dynamic with Donovan. There's something's got to give. He's too talented to be lackluster carrying the football. You'd have to assume this is almost affecting his draft stock too.
Right. I don't know if you ever seen it, but if you want, I can give you some stat lines from this year to last year. I did last week on my show concerning Donovan Edwards. If you want me to.
Yeah, if you got him, I did hear that segment of the pod on that episode last week. But yeah, go ahead and hit us. There's definitely something here though. I don't know. I know it's
so. As before I do that, the only thing that I can nitpick on this, me personally, was just giving up the one big play through the air or through the ground, and so we've given up two big plays all year round, one through the air, one on the ground, is what it is. But this one was more garbage time than the Rutgers one. So, anyways, with Donovan Edwards here, so stepping back to 2022. We're going to go through the first 4 games because this is when I put this out there. So the first 4 games from this last year to this year. So 2022, first game versus Colorado State, 12 carries, 64 yards, a touchdown, 5.3 average. Versus Hawaii, and we're not doing receiving, we're just doing the rushing. 3 carries, 26 yards, a touchdown, 8.7 average. Missed the Connecticut game, missed the Maryland game. Versus Iowa, 5 carries, 29 yards, 5.8 average. Versus Indiana, 7 carries, 21 yards, 2.1 average. That is a grand total of 140 yards on 27 carries for 5.1 average per touch. So keep that in mind. Now we go to this season. Versus East Carolina, 12 carries, 37 yards, 3.1 average. Versus UNLV, 6 carries, 9 yards, 1.5 average. Bowling Green, 9 carries, 50 yards, 5.6 average. Rutgers, 6 carries, 13 yards, 2.2 average. Grand total of 109 yards on 33 carries with a 3.3 average. And last year in 2022, it wasn't really till the Penn State game where Donald went off. That's where he had 16 for 173 and 2 touchdowns, and they absolutely.
Yeah, but he was averaging over 5 yards a carry.
So after that,
he was under 4.
Ohio State, Purdue, TCU, whatever. But so it's close, but it's not. It's like apples oranges here. But it is a food for thought of, maybe he's just yet to really pop off in one game and then has a momentum carry for the rest of the year, or maybe he just hasn't had enough touches. I don't know what it is, but part of me said too when I did this segment was that the tackles seem to not have set the edges as well as we've seen in the past 2 years. But I'm not a film expert, but that's what's been going around. That's what I've kind of seen. So I don't know. I just thought I'd write that out there and show you that it's pretty damn close up until that point.
You want to take away how we improve? You want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Yeah, for how we improve, the contributions that were made from others. Khalil Mollings, 5 carries, 43 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Darius Clemens, 2 for 29. Backup tight end AJ Barner, 2 for 26. These contributions, they're not going to be 5 catches for 110 and a tutty. It's not going to look like that. But we need to see more of this, where different guys are having 1 to 2 plays in a game, and 2 for 29, that's a 15-yard average. 2 for 26, that's a 13-yard average. 5 for 43, that's like a 7-yard average. I mean, these are good plays, and when you're touching the ball, you got to make it count, and that's what I'm seeing from some of these backup 3rd, 4th strings that maybe your everyday Wolverine fans aren't necessarily, buying jerseys for, but these are the guys that are going to help us improve and win championships.
Yep. For me, it would be kind of alluded to a little bit ago with James Donegal, Peyton O'Leary, seeing these backups get playing time, and it's been kind of refreshing to see Kenneth Graham really step up these last 2 weeks without Mason Graham. who's been out with a broken arm or hand or wrist or something like that. He should be back this weekend with a club on. So seeing him come down with an interception was pretty nice. And again, the front, the defensive tackles up front are something I was really keep my eye on the most on the defensive side because, that's a spot where we really need to see improvement. And so far we have.
Anything else on Michigan, Nebraska?
No.
Let's talk a couple week 5 slate games, and then we'll kind of move on to week 6. We'll put a bow on it. Utah heads to Oregon State without their starting quarterback, Cam Rising, and it's a rough outing. Oregon State picks up the W. I believe it was 21-7 final. We were in downtown Detroit, eating at a bar, eating some really good burgers when this game was going on. Utah, I don't think they're out of it, but without Cam Rising, they're clearly not a contender. Any opinions on this game outside of what I just said?
Yeah, they've gotten by so far over the last year and a half without him, and it seems to have caught up. And Oregon State, didn't think they were that good, but DJ Uiagalelei, or however you say his name, from Clemson, the transfer quarterback, he did enough to put the Utes away.
Is it just me, or does Oregon State not miss Jim Knowles? Looks like they play defense pretty just fine.
It was Oklahoma State, wasn't it?
Okay. That makes way more sense because I think Oregon State's a pretty good defensive team. I'm like, I think it was Oklahoma State. I think you're correct. USC at Colorado. This one starts off horribly, and Colorado makes it a game.
Yeah.
48-41, and Colorado could, with 6 minutes to go, they got the ball back, and they just mishandled the time. Not a way to come out with a win here, but they battled back. Opinions on Colorado, opinions on USC. Let me phrase the question here. Did we learn more about Colorado or more about USC in this game?
I didn't think I learned about anything. I got more confirmation. Got more confirmation that USC's defense is ass and Lincoln Riley doesn't care about it, and that Colorado is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming years. Because 34-14 at halftime, at that point I was like, dude, there ain't no way Colorado comes back from this. And then boom, USC just breaks down in the second half defensively, and Caleb Williams has to throw 6 touchdowns to win by 7 points. So, he's going to be in the NFL next year. So I don't think he's going to get a taste of the Big Ten at all. But if that's what Lincoln Riley wants to roll into the Midwest, man, he's going to be in for a hurt when he faces a defense goddamn pulse. And, Colorado, again, did that without Travis Hunter and Shiloh Sanders. And with that team not being deep and being smaller, they need every body they can get. And they hung with the best of them in terms of offensive firepower, and it turned out to be an entertaining game.
Yeah. What else we have here?
Well,
Notre Dame
had Cade McNamara had a season end, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was getting to that. That was my second one. But yeah, so Michigan State, they're playing Iowa, and they end Cade McNamara. I shouldn't say that. It's not their fault. Cade McNamara's season ends against Michigan State on a avoiding safety scramble for a couple of yards, and you just kind of see Cade's knee buckle, and before he's even hit, he's fallen to the ground. Disappointing for Cade. Opinions on how that all went down?
Yeah, it was about a month ago or a month and a half ago. I posted a story about I posted on the Real Talk page, I believe, and my own, of the report that showed that Cade McNamara was kind of a dick to JJ when he got on campus at Michigan. But that's for another story, another time. But anyways, so I was kind of still have my mixed feelings, kind of some reservations on whether I should root for this kid or not. But regardless, it still sucks to see him go down on a non-contact injury. And, I had a lot of promise for Iowa in my predictions, thinking they could go to the Big Ten championship and play Michigan for it. And now with Deacon Hill, the transfer quarterback from Wisconsin, he did barely just enough to get by Michigan State at home. So Iowa, barring some miracle, this division's. I mean, you could say the division was already wide open before this happened, but I think Iowa's going to be out of contention for Indianapolis, unless Deacon Hill gets a week or two to get under his belt as a starter and maybe excels, but I just don't see it. And it was nice to see Michigan State lose. Their quarterback situation isn't great either. Noah Kim throws 3 picks. They're already calling for Kate Hauser after they already shat on him in the beginning of the year. So East Lansing turmoil is my heroine. So thank you, Hawkeyes.
Notre Dame goes to Duke. They're down a score with just like a minute or so to go, and they punch one in. 30-yard go-ahead TD there. Duke gets the ball back. Unfortunately, it's not enough. Notre Dame escapes. What do you think about Notre Dame? Obviously, they don't line up with 11 guys their last 2 plays. Ohio State beats them on the road, but it seems like Notre Dame's still pretty solid. Opinions on Notre Dame?
I gotta be honest, I didn't really watch much of this game because I was at a wedding Saturday, and I was kind of focusing on the Michigan State Iowa game. But I think Notre Dame's still going to be a competitive football team, whatever. I just don't think that they got the stuff to be a top 4 by any means. But we'll see what happens next year when they lose Sam Hartman. PSA, by the way, quit having freaking weddings during football season. All right, there you go.
Here's the thing about that before we move on. It's not that we don't love you. It's not that we don't care about you in your future. It's that you don't care about us and our fandom, okay? So it's mutual. If you want us to attend and be present, you want us to attend with smiling faces, April, May, June, July, August, all fair game. All fair game. Or get married on a Friday night in the fall, I guess. Even that's kind of a little risque with high school football. But anyway.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. So during the wedding, wet ass blankety blank is playing on the DJ whatever, and I'm the only one not on the dance floor, and I got my phone on the table and I'm watching Michigan State and Iowa. So that's where I was at that moment in time. Getting that wet ass blankety blank, and I'm over here.
Are there kids at this wedding?
No, it was adults only.
Thank God. Goodness gracious. All right. Let's talk a little bit. Michigan at Minnesota, 7 o'clock, NBC this Saturday. Little Brown Jug. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2020 is the last time
that we played them. Yes.
Yeah. Both times we're at their house. But this is going to be a good one. I think Minnesota, I don't have it in front of me. They're only lost to North Carolina, correct? Do you have it in front of you by chance?
They're 3-2. They lost to North Carolina and they lost to Northwestern in overtime.
Oh, that's right. That ugly game against Northwestern. Yeah. I think this is a better Minnesota than that night. This is a better team than what they showed that night. This is a team that went head-to-head with Drake May. I believe they've beaten Wisconsin already this year. I like this Minnesota team. I think they're solid. It'll be a nice test. I believe it'll be a tougher game this weekend than it was last weekend. What do you got on Minnesota?
Well, Minnesota's boasting the league's 5th best rushing attack. They're averaging 192.3 per game. They're bottom half on rushing defense, bottom half for pass offense and pass defense. So this team is reliant on the run game. They are tied somehow with Maryland with 8 team interceptions. So they can't stop the pass, but they can make it turn it over for some reason. And like I said, heavy on the run game. So Sean Tyler and Darius Taylor, they're two running backs. They get a lot of work. Darius Taylor he's played in 4 of the 5 games this year, or excuse me, 3 of the 4 games. Excuse me. So 4 games, and 3 of them he's carried the ball for 33 times, 22 times, 31 times. So expect a heavy workload. Sean Tyler goes anywhere between 10 to 17 runs a game, and they're averaging 200. Over the whole season, 205 rushing attempts to 122 passing attempts. So there's another confirmation there for that on how they game script and go for defense, give up just over 400 yards through the air in both those losses. So for the 3rd week in a row, Michigan's playing a team that is one-trick pony. If you shut them down in the run game and try to make them beat you through the air, I think that bodes well. I think this game could get really physical at the beginning. And if Michigan doesn't get up on them early, at least get the first touchdown, maybe get to 14-0, 14-3. If Minnesota is able to hang around, then we'll have a game on their hands. But if they stomp on their neck, squeeze the ball out from underneath them, I think Michigan in a good spot to go 38-17. I really do.
Yeah, this was a game that we actually, before the season, we had talked about potentially going to this one. We ended up choosing to go to Penn State, but this was on the table, and I'm sure it will be a game we try to go to in the future. The Little Brown Jug is a pretty cool trophy. So, I like Michigan to win this game. Do you have the spread in front of you by chance?
At one point, or at least, let's see, it's still the same. No, it's moved. So as of right now, according to Caesars, it's 19, and the over/under is 46.
I think Michigan can cover 19. I think they can win by 21. I think they can.
Yeah.
I think they can. That'll be a fun one. Let's talk some other week 6 slates. We'll hit the mailbag, and then we'll hit the road. Let's talk a little outside of the Big Ten. I'm pretty sure College Game Day is here for this one. It's the Cotton Bowl, number 12 Oklahoma, number 3 Texas, the Red River rivalry. Who you got here? Texas has looked pretty good. Already got a win over Bama, but Oklahoma's no slouch. There's definitely a better Brett Venables team than what we've seen a year ago.
I'd probably go Longhorns here. The Sooners are set. They've won 7 of the last 10. So they've got that going for them, but I'm a fan of Quinn Ewers, and I think this team is an overall better team than Oklahoma is by far. I don't go really out of my way to watch these games every year between these two, but I'll ride with Texas.
Maryland, 5-0 on the year, heads to Columbus to play the number 4 Buckeyes, who are 4-0 on the year. Sorry. Ohio State favored by 20. This feels like too many. I think Maryland can give them a run. I think Ohio State definitely pulls this out, but I think they can give them a run for their money. 20 seems too much. What do you think?
It does seem too much. As long as Tagovailoa stays healthy, stays off the ground.
Yeah.
I think if we go back and forth the whole way, I mean, these are statistically the best passing offenses in the Big Ten, 1 and number 2. So, is this going to be the game where Maryland's literally one play away from upsetting them 3-4 years ago? Or is it going to be a game where Ohio State just blows the doors off? And, I'm waiting to see 100% confidence from the Buckeye fan base of their offense and what their team does. So I think it's going to be a big test for Ohio State's defense if they can stop Maryland's passing attack.
Another 12 noon kick. This is a great slate we've got here. This is the 3rd game here. Number 23 LSU, 3-2 on the year, travels to Mizzou. Number 21 to play the 5-0 Tigers. Missouri LSU, Missouri at home, getting 6.5. That feels like the play to me. Home team, undefeated, getting points. I like the Tigers to at least cover. It wouldn't shock me if LSU squeaked this out. I can't imagine 3-3 LSU. That doesn't feel right, but at the same time, doesn't look like they win here. What's your opinion?
I'm I'm gonna kind of go with Missouri. They haven't really played a tough schedule yet. I mean,
Yeah.
they beat number 15 Kansas State at the time. What worries me is Missouri's defense. I mean, they squeaked one out against Memphis. 38-21 over Vanderbilt on the road. Okay, whatever. I just feel like that if you're a betting man and you want to be more confident in Missouri, I feel like 38-20. I think just 21 points is just too much to give up to the Commodores. I don't know what we're going to see from LSU. I feel like that team is really inconsistent. Like I said, I'm going to pull for Missouri because I cannot stand Brian Kelly. It's been noted here numerous times. So we won't travel down that path or that bridge to find that little troll. But yeah, go Tigers.
So got a couple of great 7 o'clock slates to go along with Michigan, Minnesota. Number 20, Kentucky, 5-0 on the year. The Wildcats travel to Athens, play the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia favored by 14.5. A lot of people think Kentucky pulls it out. I think Georgia wins this game, even if it's by a point. I don't know if they cover. They've been pretty sloppy, struggled with Auburn. Give me Georgia here.
I think Georgia wins, but I want Kentucky to win. I want that one spot in the polls to get opened up, and it's going to be a revealing weekend because if Texas wins, Michigan wins, and Georgia loses, who's going to be number one? Is it going to be Texas? Is it going to be Michigan? Or if Georgia lose, all these different scenarios, it's going to be wide open. So I'm praying for chaos here.
Number 10, Notre Dame, 5-1 on the year. Travel to Louisville, Cardinal Stadium to play the 5-0 Cardinals. Notre Dame favored by 6.5. Louisville, the last couple of years they've had some strong teams, some good program. This Notre Dame team just feels a little different than what we've seen in years past. They obviously had the blunder late in the Ohio State game. This is a good football team. Sam Hartman on the road doesn't seem to matter. Give me Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think Louisville could hang around potentially like for the first half. They got a pretty decent offense. Jack Plummer, I don't know if he's related to Jake. I don't know if that's Jake Plummer's son or not. But Jack Plummer is a pretty good quarterback. They put up 56 points. They've been in the 50s numerous times this year. So I'll give me a first half close one, and then maybe Notre Dame pulls away because of their defense.
So as far as the mailbag goes, the question was from you, but then multiple people kind of respond. I'll just kind of read it out. We'll just discuss. If Michigan and Texas both win their game, so Michigan beats Minnesota, Texas takes care of Oklahoma, but Georgia loses to Kentucky, who takes the number 1 spot? Does Texas leapfrog Michigan? There's a comment here that says Texas is number 1 in my eyes. And then another person comments, they might. No other team will have 2 top 10 wins like Texas. Here's where I'm at. If Texas beats Oklahoma and Georgia, even if Georgia doesn't lose, Texas has every right in the world to jump Michigan to 2. I think they also have every right in the world, depending on how Georgia would look against Kentucky, to then jump. They would have a win versus Oklahoma and a win versus Alabama. There's nobody else that has 2 better wins in the entire country than that. So they would definitely have an argument. Here's where Texas could falter. They don't play anybody else that's really in the discussion of a good team for the rest of the season after that. Their next good win would not be probably until a potential playoff game. They have a lackluster TCU game. I think they play a lackluster Texas Tech team. They play some lackluster teams in the Big 12. So
yeah, they're going to be probably coasting after this.
That's what I'm saying. Michigan, on the other hand, no matter what happens in this game, whether they win by 100 or by a point, they still have some prove-it games against Penn State and Ohio State, at least those 2. Lord knows how Maryland looks after this weekend and other things like that. So based off exactly here, Michigan, Texas both win, Georgia loses. I think it's Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, depending on if they beat Maryland. Then Georgia drops to 4, I think. That's how I see it. Where do you see things?
I think it's going to be some of the eye test and style points. If Texas goes out and absolutely dominates this game and makes Oklahoma look like buffoons, I think they are a sheer, without a doubt, undisputed number 1. Michigan stays at 2. If they go out there and win by 3 or, play sloppy and still win, I think Michigan can still move up to number 1. They, I'm assuming they're going to beat Minnesota 38-13, like my prediction says, and Georgia would probably move to 3 or 4. So that's a lot of assumptions, but I think that Texas is, isn't going to be just a shoe into number 1 if they beat Oklahoma. I think it's going to be on how they do it. And, if we use the same argument, the same formula, Michigan's got a way harder schedule on this backstretch than Texas does on theirs. So if Texas stays 1, Michigan, or moves to 1 and Michigan goes to 2, what happens if Michigan goes to Happy Valley and absolutely obliterates Penn State? That means they could get 1 and then Texas comes back to 2, so a lot of wiggle room here. So if we're going to use that argument for that, that's where I want to use for when Michigan takes care of Penn State and whatnot. So just be prepared for that.
Second and last question here comes in from our buddy Jamie Lado. If you could put one Michigan player all time at Michigan on this year's team, who would you add to give them the best shot at the Natty? Jeff, please don't wash the question down and say Tom Brady. Well, Jamie, you know me very well, but not good enough because I was not going to say Tom Brady. I'm going to let you go first. I wrote mine down already, and I'll show it to you after you say your name. I'm wondering if we think the same.
I never really gave this a lot of thought, even after I read it. I kind of went to. I'll tell you one that I like. The first name that came to my head for some reason, it's probably because he had a good NFL. He's had a good NFL season so far and had a good week Sunday. Is Nico Collins, but I'm like, don't really need a wide receiver. And if I had to pick a wide receiver, I'd probably just go straight to like Brandon Edwards or something like that, or Mario Manningham, but that would be boring. Let me say Jake Long.
Interesting.
I'll say
Okay.
Jake Long. Reason for that is because the offensive line is good, but as we've seen when we got into the Georgia game and the TCU game, when they design these stunts and blitzes and stuff like that, we've seen some trouble. And we all know that Jake Long was a surefire first-round overall pick, and Michigan ran left again and ran left some more. So that would set the edge for Donovan Edwards because he likes to go left. I think that's a good one.
Don't get me wrong. Having an elite left tackle would be nice. I think Michigan is set on the offensive line, and I didn't even consider offensive line. If I had to pick an offensive player, I also was thinking Nico Collins. If I had to pick a defensive player, I was thinking Aiden Hutchinson. Those guys are not too far removed from the program. I think they're great fits, plug and plays. But the number one answer for me, can you see that?
Jake Moody.
Think of what the question is. Who do you want to add them to give the best shot at the Natty? Natty on the line, down 3. Are you confident with what we have right now? And I know, let's give him some credit. We haven't seen enough. But are you confident right now, game on the line?
Not if you're comparing 2 kickers, no. But I don't know.
You think Jake Moody's a bad answer?
No, it's not a bad answer. I just no, I don't think it's a bad answer.
I just think that if this season comes down to us missing a kick, do you realize every Michigan fan under the sun is going to say, of course, it's the year after he's gone that we suck in the kicking? It would be the most Michigan way to lose, because it's like we've had a kicker for 2 years now, dominant kicker, and all of a sudden we need him, and it's like he doesn't get the chance. I could see that happening. That's why, to be honest, when I seen this question, I was like, oh, Jake Moody. It didn't even it wasn't even a thought.
Right.
But yeah, that's all I got. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. Just
I think this Michigan team, we have not seen them play their best game. That's a good thing. Time will tell. I think this team's got a ton of pop in them. I think they're going to lay it down this weekend for the Little Brown Jug. By the way, I want to talk about one more thing. I wish I would have talked about it earlier. 2021 kind of set the tone for this team. Since losing at Michigan State, and I would include Michigan State, but if you don't want to, I get it. Does this team feel like they're a better road team than a home team? It almost seems like they eat on that. Like their road victories, if you really think about them, they've been dominant. Their home games are the ones that have kind of been rough. The Illinois game sticks out. I think there was a Rutgers game at home that sticks out. But dear Lord, they go into Madison, laid it down. They go to Nebraska twice. They struggled the first one, but they laid it down. Ohio State, the Penn State game, they played their hearts out in that one. They came away late in that one. Like, I just starting to think like this team might be almost a better road team. It's almost like they're more dialed in.
No, you're definitely onto something because starting in 2021, that was the season obviously last year, or that going into that whole thing, we didn't realize what was going to happen that year, and to see them go on the road and like embrace the hostile environments with the jump around and the whatever Nebraska does with the red and black lights and all that stuff. I don't even know what it is, but they just embraced everything, and I thought that was really, really awesome. And Jim Harbaugh name drops him all the time. Ben Herbert, the strength and conditioning coach. I guess that dude does a lot of below the radar stuff with the culture and the environment and the mentality and everything that goes into it. So a lot has to do with Ben Herbert and them just getting prepared to not bow down and not fluster when it matters. And again, really looking back on it, see them blow out. I know Wisconsin was still figuring things out at quarterback in 2021, but to go on the road at Madison, which was one of their kryptonite, issues for a while there, and you go ahead and do it. They go on the road to Lincoln and get out of an atmosphere that season where it felt like that was their game to lose, and Scott Frost is one big win away from revitalizing his program, and they go out and they steal it from him. So definitely see.
Hear me out. So 2021, Michigan beats Rutgers by 7. The very next week, they throttle at Nebraska 38-17. Very next week, they go to Nebraska. I'm sorry, I said Nebraska. It was Wisconsin. The very next week, they go to Nebraska. It's a close one, 32-29, but they really pull away tight in that one and really bow down. That Michigan State game, while there were 2 late turnovers, they were throttling Michigan State in this game, giving them the business, okay? At Penn State, it's 21-17. They come away with a huge win. At Maryland that year, 59-18. And then they beat the Buckeyes down 42-27 the following week. And then 2022, pull that up. I mean, their road victories are they're something. They're home September 24th, right? Start of the Big Ten, 34-27 against Maryland. Okay. Then the very next week, it's at Iowa, 27-14. Just seemed so dialed in. They got Penn State at home. They got Michigan State at home. They kind of take care of business here. They struggle the last week of the year, Illinois 19-17. The very next week at Ohio State, 45-23. It's just like this road shit. It's like it's a different vibe to them. They dig it. They really dig it. So how nice it is to just see W's everywhere.
Oh, 100%. Trust me, it's so wild because, again, we can't call back to all the time. Like this would have been a different podcast if we started it in 2017, and at the 17, 18, 19 seasons, at least for me, it was like I go into every week not confident of what's going to happen in a positive result, and now like this year, it's like going in, I'm like, yeah, guys, I don't want to sound arrogant to you fellow listeners, but it's like, show me a loss. Why is that loss conceivable? So I'm just it's hard not to see green W's in this stat column here on ESPN.com. It's really hard for me to see that. And again, Penn State could be for real this year, or we go into Happy Valley and just curb stomp them like we did the last 2 years. So, yeah, it's something to see.
Yeah, the one thing, I mean, if you're listening to this pod and you're just like, yeah, I mean, these guys are it's not, these wins aren't lost on us. Like they're not taken for granted. It's a different, what's the word I'm looking for? We've come a long way. I mean, the only season worth a damn under the Harbaugh era, 2016 obviously sticks out, where they take care of business. They lose at Iowa. They rebound with a win, and then they go to Columbus and they lose in double overtime by 3. And then the very next game was the bowl game. They lose by a point to Florida State. It's like, man, that sucks. And then 17 is literally one of Harbaugh's worst seasons, that and COVID. 2018 starts off horrible. They lose by a touchdown at Notre Dame, and then they roll off $1.5 billion wins. They get to Columbus. Kirk Herbstreit even says Michigan's the team to be here. It's the revenge tour. Everything's great. They get to pants 62-39. It's just like these things were the seasons we were typically, this is what we were seeing. And now it's like, it's a totally different team, totally different vibe. 30-3, 35-7, 31-6, 31-7, 45-7. I don't give a shit who you're playing.
Right.
You're just mowing people over. The ball constrictor.
So I'll say one more thing here at least. So real quick, from start to where we're at now. 2015, I'm telling you my vibes going into the year. So 2015, honeymoon, just wanted to be competitive. Jim Harbaugh is here, blah, blah, blah. Here comes all the fanfare, right? Yeah. Lose Ohio State in kind of shitty fashion at the end of the year. All right, let's get ready for 2016. 2016, just dominating all year long. You'll lose in absolute devastating, heartbreaking fashion in Columbus. You don't even want to watch the bowl game. You'll lose that when you should have won it. All right, we're in 2017. This is year 3. We have to figure it out now. This is where we're at. We got Don Brown in here for with his defense. Doesn't work out. Wilt Spake gets hurt. So it's like, all right, back to 2018. 2018, it's like, all right, we're at year 4. Got Shea Patterson coming in. We got a quarterback that he sought after. Has to be done. Start flat, midway, okay, and then at the end of the year, just get embarrassed again. Sucks. 2019, same kind of similar how 18 was. All right, Shea Patterson's year 2 under Jim Harbaugh. Defense dominates everybody, but when we get to Ohio State, we get dominated. 2020 happens. Jim Harbaugh needs to be fired. 2021 happens. Anything can happen in this season. Got Ohio State at home. Pray for a miracle. It happens. Just an emotional season, dream year. Fall short in the end in the playoff, but we'll never change that year if you had to do it again. Last year, it was all about, all right, so we have now matched Ohio State. It's time to get to the national championship. Fell just short of that again, but with all that happened last year, it was still successful. Now this year, for me, again, it's natty or bust. So I'm not going to be ungrateful if that doesn't happen. But again, this is the year where it's like, all right, this is put up or shut up time.
What game do you think is more important to change to a W? Okay, I'm gonna give you 3. 2015, Michigan State, the muffed punt. Okay. 2016 at Ohio State in Columbus, JT was short. 2022, Michigan TCU. The TCU one's going to be the quick one where you're like, oh, that's got to be it. But there's a chance if Michigan beats Ohio State in 2016 that this program, it might be on fire right now and maybe already have won a natty. There's also a chance that if Michigan never muffs the punt against Michigan State, that team might be in complete different vibes. Or obviously, feel free to take the W against TCU and we'll live to tell the tale against Georgia. What do you think kind of sticks out here? Or if you had to rank them?
That's a good question. 2015, Michigan State can have that game.
Real quick, do you agree that those are the three?
Right off the top, I'll roll with it because I'm not really thinking about that. I'm already giving Michigan State that 2015 year. I'm looking at the 2016 Ohio State game. I don't care what happened last year at the TCU game. The 2016 game in Columbus, if Michigan wins that last year for U of M, that type of outcome probably happens in like 2017 or 2018. So I think that 2016 game just set them back 3 years, to be honest.
I agree.
I think one game like that set them back 3 years. That was a deflating loss. Should have won that game. And whether you think JT Barrett is short or not, like there was just one after another of situations in there where they just shouldn't have happened. And I'm not going to get into like the penalty flags and all that shit. I just thought it was really, really sketchy. And it is what it is. That's my personal opinion. But I think if 2016 is reversed, 2022 happens in probably 2018.
Yeah. But here we are. Got a new team, new vibes. It's fun. It's the most fun I've had rooting for Michigan in my entire life. So I'm here for it. I think that's a wrap. We'll see you back next week. Hopefully after getting the Little Brown Jug once again. And we'll be on to Indiana.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see you guys next week. Go Blue.
Go Blue.